Right, welcome everyone to the latest in our Short Talks series, talking with a range of interesting characters at the moment on aspects that I think will be quite relevant to business leaders and business owners in the current climate. Today, I'm talking with Sarah Donohue, and Sarah's a powerboat champion, journalist, author, TV presenter, world fitness champion and speaker, which is quite a mouthful. But for those of you who haven't read about Sarah in the past or seen some of her exploits, she's been a Bond stuntwoman as well, isn't that right, Sarah? In amongst all of that.
Indeed.
But today, really, it's I guess some of the powerboat racing I'm interested in talking about, because back in 1999, Sarah was racing and had what can be described as quite a bad crash, where Sarah ended up under the water for 4 minutes, I believe it was. You were pulled out and pronounced dead at one point, and came back from that and fought your way back to back on the water, racing again, and a number of other interesting accomplishments. So I was keen, Sarah, just to hear your story about that. Take us back to that point in time, and just talk us through how you fought your way back, really.
It was just a normal race day, as it always is, and I was racing for an Italian team. You can jump obviously from team to team, and everything was going well. We were up there. I think there was about 22 boats. We were up there running, I don't know, maybe third, fourth, and then I think there could have been 2 races in the championship at that time in the Europeans, and this was on the second race, and the boat just turned over. And it's a catamaran, so you're aware the catamaran has 2 hulls. And I was on the right-hand side, because sometimes you sit, you're either next to each other or one behind the other. Mm. And it was funny, actually, we were coming up to a turn mark, and we were going about 80 miles an hour, and it was flat. And I just felt, I almost see it in slow motion. I felt the sponson, which is the hull, go in the water. And I remember it now, and I can see it in slow motion as the water came over the sponson as it dug in. And as it dug in and it went to twist to go upside down, I just thought, oh, because it's lights out.
Yeah.
So you know it's happening. There's no recovery from that, and it's so quick. So it just immediately went over, and that was it. And apparently it ripped my crash helmet off, and then in doing so, the water actually pushed me into the footwell of the cockpit as well. The reason you have open canopy boats, you don't have any form of harness on, because they expect you to get thrown through. When you are capsuled in like an F-16 fighter pilot cockpit, you're harnessed in, because that's the safe way to do it. So they expect you to get thrown free. But I went over the boat, pushed into the footwell, and then they actually couldn't get me out. So the guys kept going under the boat to try and pull me out. But of course, we then have a very strong life vest, which is there to push you up to the surface to keep you safe. So of course, the life vest is pushing me up into the boat, making it even more difficult for people to get me out. So I wasn't fighting at any point, because I'm unconscious. I haven't got the crash helmet on. My life vest is pushing me up. Eventually, they got me out, and I was resuscitated on deck. I was airlifted to hospital. I had titanium plates in my face, eventually with my jaw wired together. Everyone was really happy about that, because I couldn't speak all the time, especially my parents. But I'd broken and dislocated all sorts of things. I was a mess. So it took me a while to rehabilitate, and even because I'd broken and dislocated my shoulder and my collarbone, even simple movements were very difficult for me to do and almost impossible. So I think rehabilitation in reality was like 6 months to a year, but I wasn't really powerful, and it could have been about a year later. When you come back to kind of normality, you've still got lack of movement, you still got lack of strength, but everything's starting to function as normal. So that was me. And then I was obviously out of powerboat racing for that season after. And then it was the season after that I could get back in and carry on racing.
And some people would think after an event like that, I'm not going to go near a boat ever again. So what motivated you at that point, I guess, to fight your way back, to get back in the boat?
Well, there's a lot of people have had lesser crashes than that and not got back in a boat, because that would be normal. It's normal. But I really love racing. And with powerboat racing, it's not just about the adrenaline and the thrills and the adventures and the feeling on water and all the different complications you have to deal with on water, because the racing surface changes all the time. It's the most unpredictable racing surface in the world, and it's so exciting. Every single minute is different. There's always a new challenge when you're racing. But for me, it's deeper rooted than that. The powerboat family, the offshore racers in Italy, in America, in, I don't know, Sweden, Norway, the UK, all of us, we're all family. And I would miss them. You can't just give up a lifestyle when your family is dotted around the world. I have some of the best times of my life with these people. So it's not only the sport I love, but it's the environment and the people. And it's something like that that drags you back. So for me, it was really important to carry on racing. And apart from that, I'm stubborn. I was brought up with 6 boys. And you can't be seen, especially someone like me. When I say someone like me, it's because I've had to be tough. And I've had to fight for everything that I've wanted. So there was no way that someone like me could then really say, oh God, you know what, I'm not going to get back in a boat, because that's not how I am, and it's not how people perceive me to be. So, you know, as far as I was concerned, whether I liked it or not, I was getting back in and I was going to race. So that was just one of those things. There's no way I couldn't race. I had to race.
And it was as part of that rehabilitation you got into your strength and fitness training. Is that right?
Yeah, when I eventually went back to my personal trainer, and they just looked at me and they were just like, well, what am I going to do with you? Because I was like such a mess and I was so thin. I was so thin at this point. They had to really work with me on movement and then build me up. And then it got to the point where I was actually so fit and so strong and so powerful, and my muscle endurance was at its peak. I mean, I'd surpassed everything we thought we could, because even the doctors said, we don't know how much better you're going to get physically, but I'd surpassed everything. That my trainer just said to me, you really need to start competing. And they said, there isn't anything for you over here, because I'm not saying compete in bodybuilding or anything like that. They said, you need a big fitness show, one where you do an assault course, you do fitness tests, and it's strength and endurance based, as well as stage. And they said to me, there's one called Galaxy over in America. You need to see this, and you need to see the sort of girls. And they said to me, they said, you look like the girls that compete in Galaxy. And within 6 months, I was over there competing. And I think I came fourth out of, I think, about, I don't know, 270 girls.
Wow, that's amazing. So with all those weeks and months of training and effort and pain and going through that, what motivated you through that day? I mean, how many hours a day would you spend training on average then?
So this is it. People always think that you spend a lot of time training, especially if you're doing fitness competitions, but it's not like that. Sometimes less is more, because the most important thing about anything, training, or it doesn't matter if you're training for a fitness event or you're training for anything else, sometimes you need time to relax, gather your thoughts, and grow yourself. So that's one of the important things. So I never really trained more than 4 times a week. A physio, small bits and pieces you have to do every day when you've got that much damage to your body. But actual training, you're never really more than 4 times a week, maybe 5 at the most, 45 minutes to an hour, and that's it. But you have to do it. If you want to then achieve something, you have to be dedicated to it. You can't just give up partway through. And it's like getting back in a boat. You kind of think, oh God, the first time you get back in a boat, are you going to be nervous? But you have to do it. You have to take that step. And if we go back to racing, the first time I got in a boat was with a fantastic engineer and boat builder called Mark Pascoe. And he said to me, it was only about 6 or 7 weeks after the crash, he said, you need to get back in a boat. We're going to go out in a boat just so you get the feel of it again. He was driving. And it was great to get back. Don't get me wrong, my arm was in a sling, I could barely move, and they put me in the boat. But it was great to go out with Mark and get that feeling of being in a boat, because you have to have the dedication and the motivation to do it. And I do think that the more you do something and the more motivated you are, the more you want to do something. But you know, if you try and ignore something or put something off, you get to the point where you become lazy and then you don't want to do it. So you have to make something a habit. And I think that's very important.
No, good point. And there must have been some bleak days, some hard days on that recovery path where you just, I don't know, didn't feel like getting out of bed. And I mean, how did you get through those? How did you motivate yourself on the down days?
You always, this is it, you always get down days. And it doesn't matter what you're doing, how you are, whether you're ill or whether you're not ill. Every single person in the world gets a down day. And no matter how nice and happy we all are, you don't know if I've had a really bad morning. In fact, I have. It was raining in earlier. I had a really bad morning, but I don't look unhappy. But we all have bad days. But on those bad days, you have to understand that the next day you're going to feel fine and it's going to be okay. Everybody has bad days and it's okay to have a bad day. But if you can still do anything, if it's about training, if you don't want to go to the gym and you don't feel like it and you really can't be that bothered, then do you know what? Don't do it. Do something you like. Do something that's going to make you happy, that's going to make you enjoyable. And the day after, when you're feeling better, then you can go back in the gym. But sometimes you don't need to force yourself to do something you don't like. But it is important to keep motivated.
No, that's a good point. So when in that, after the recovery period, it was Venice was your first race back, was it?
Funnily enough, Venice wasn't my first race back. I'm just trying to think. God, you race in so many places. And listen, after that knock on my head back in 1999, I don't remember very much. My first race back was actually Policastro in Italy. And it was with the man that saved my life. Wow. So the Italian, Giuseppe, that resuscitated me on the deck of the boat that gave me back my life, I then raced with him in the Italian Championships. And we tested in Venice. So yes, so the first time I'd been out fast in a boat was Venice, because we tested in Venice, but the race was in Policastro. And when we tested in Venice and I went over there, this was going to be the first time that I had driven a boat since the crash. And it was a very similar boat. It was a catamaran, the same setup with an Italian throttleman. And I got in the boat and everyone's like, Sarah, are you all right? I'm like, yeah, everything's great. Can't wait to get in. Everything's great. And I've stood there and I'm really positive. And everyone's thinking, this is great. Look, she's not even bothered that she had the accident. She's on. And inside, I am dying. Because obviously, the last time I got in one of these boats, it killed me. So, of course, I was really nervous, but I wasn't going to let the guys see that I was scared, because a throttleman doesn't want a scared driver in the boat. You have to remember that. It's no good for him if I'm scared, because he doesn't want that in the boat. So I got in the boat. I remember going down Venice Water, and there's a special area where you can go at speed, and it goes for about 3 kilometers, and there was a wall on the right-hand side, and that's where you do your testing and your prop testing. And the wall's only 2 meters away. And you're going down, you're thinking, I know this boat does over 100 miles an hour. If I go into that wall for any reason, there's a wash that comes this way, there's something in the water, maybe even my bad driving, I'm going to die again. So it was difficult getting in, and it was going fast. So you're doing 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 miles an hour. And then you know when you've hit 100, because he tells you you've hit 100, because he'll know. And then you're going for a kilometer at 100 miles an hour. But honestly, I could see, even though I'm traveling at 100 miles an hour, I could see me crashing. I was having visions of crashing into that wall. And it's really difficult. I haven't bothered telling anyone before, because you just don't tell people things like that, because you can't tell people like that. But it is quite scary. We came back, got out of the boat, and the guy said, is everything all right? Were you fine? Yeah, absolutely fine. Loved it. I was bricking it, but I had to do it because the weekend after I was racing in Policastro. So you have to test before you race. and it was important for me to go at that speed, because you've got to remember that in the race, if the boat's top speed is 100 miles an hour, and that's on testing on flat water, so in a race we're only going to maybe average 70 miles an hour, maybe not even that, depending on the water. So even though you know that speed on land it feels like double that in a car. So it's a case of, I'm going to go 100 miles an hour here, and there's a wall there, but when I'm racing, I'm only going to be doing 70, and there's no walls. So it makes it easier. But you have to get the mindset. You have to get the mindset that look, you're going to do it. You're going to carry on doing it. It is what you do. So you've got to crack on and do it. You don't need to tell people you're scared. They don't want to know that you're scared. You have to just really, you just have to power through it. And sometimes it's not easy, but you have to do it because there's nothing else you can do.
They're brilliant points, because I speak to a lot of business owners and leaders at the moment, and I know with some of the business owners, they are genuinely scared about, I guess, the future of the business and the success of the business and looking after their staff. And it's great to hear that, and in an extreme scenario, about how you handle that. You focused, and as you say, you outwardly fine, but inwardly that fear was really there, but you overcame it. It's really good, really inspiring.
But everyone, no matter what you're doing, even if you're doing a speech, you could have done speeches. Even when I do motivational talks, so you do motivational talks and you're on stage and you've got this, you're happy and you make people laugh, and you're entertaining the audience, and also you're giving them food for thought. But it doesn't mean to say that before you go on stage, even though you look incredibly confident on stage, you're not really nervous before you go on stage. Of course you are. If you're not nervous, there's something wrong with you. So anything where there's a big decision to be made, or you're going in front of a huge audience, if you're not a little bit nervous, then there's something wrong with you, because you should be. You should be. I think that's very normal.
And what about that mindset? Like you said, when you're in the boat and you're flat out, and as you said, then you even when you were doing the testing, you're still getting flashbacks to the crash. What else goes through your mind? How do you focus at that sharp end of the performance?
Yeah, it's not easy, because you do think you are having flashbacks, and I did see myself crashing, because you can't help that. And then on top of that, I'm thinking, if that doesn't kill me, when my mum finds out that I've been in a boat in Venice, she's going to kill me, because I didn't tell her. I promised her I'd stop racing. So I've not only got that to contend with, but I'm now thinking of my mum, and I'm thinking she's going to kill me. But you just have to really, you have to focus. And as much as you're seeing flashbacks and you've got your own inner demons that you're fighting with there, you have to focus, because you have a job, and I have got to go that way, and I've got to go that way, and keep this boat in a straight line at 100 miles an hour. I have to do that because I've got a guy who is relying on me, and a team that's relying on me. And you work within a team, and it's not you that wins a race, it's your team that wins a race. So there's the throttleman, the driver, you've got your engineers, you've got your pit crew. You're all in on this together. And it's not just about letting yourself down. That doesn't matter. You cannot let everyone else down. So you're working as a team, and you always have to remember that when you're doing this, you're not just doing this for you, you're doing it for everyone, because everyone has put so much time, so much energy, and so much money into it, and they care so much, and they're so passionate about this, that it's your job to bring that home to them, to bring that glory home. And if you can get that extra mile an hour, just that extra anything that they've helped give you, then they want that feedback, and they want you to come in and say, do you know what? That boat runs perfect. It was brilliant. Thank you for doing that. Good job. And it's the team. So the team gives you the focus to do well, because I think when you're doing something for other people, it's even more important that you do it right and you do it well.
That's brilliant. That's perfect. Thanks, Sarah. I really appreciate your input on all those points today. It's been really good. Thank you.
No, that's all right. No, I've enjoyed it.
No, thank you.